Yes, yes. Jackson, here it is. The first time I have ever been on YouTube on 101 ESPN. And just like Michael Jackson at the 1984 Grammy Awards, when he
Did he bring
suspiciously, don't you step on my material here.
Sorry.
Don't you ever step on my material.
Couldn't be sorrier.
And in van, 2, 1. Yes, yes. Welcome into Balloon Party. Jackson, it is the first time that I have appeared on these 101 YouTube cameras. And just like 1984 Grammy Awards, when Michael Jackson suspiciously took a delightful yet small Emmanuel Lewis as his date.
Okay. Because he had like a series of odd Grammy dates, did he not? Did he not bring a chimpanzee at one point?
Right. I mean, let's be honest. There were warning signs.
Yeah, clearly some wasn't totally there.
Get into your Mount Rushmore of Michael Jackson warning signs. I think the Emmanuel Lewis date was probably the George Washington.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But Michael Jackson with his date, Emmanuel Lewis, looking up, said, "I'm going to take these sunglasses off for the ladies up there in the balcony." And they all screamed,
right,
having no idea they had no chance for a lot of reasons.
Right.
You, on the 101 ESPN YouTube, are seeing these baby blues for the first time. And now you understand why I have bottle service at Napoli every Friday and Saturday.
I'm trying to do some backtracking here. Would that make me Emmanuel Lewis? Am I Emmanuel Lewis right now?
Clip that off. And the answer is yes.
All right. That's
you are.
Fun.
Jackson, it's been 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? Probably longer than that.
I think June 30th would have been our last show together on 101 ESPN.
But you were in here doing the producer party.
Me, Matt Rocchio, Andrew Marsh, and then Good Morning Grant Francis was on the ones and twos.
Good Morning Grant.
And I was sitting right where you were sitting.
Reality Bites reference.
Yeah. I was sitting right where you were sitting. For the first time ever. I've never done a show here without being behind the switches, so it was fun.
How did you enjoy it? How was the producer party?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun time, a good opportunity to show some of the chemistry that some of the younger guys here have, and I really enjoyed it.
Do you feel like it's your time? I've had my time.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a near 25-year run in the market, and I think it's time to hand over the keys to you and Good Morning Grant and Marshy Marsh and the Playful Posse and Rocchio. I think it's time.
See, that's the funny thing about opportunity, Tim, is that
this is going to be poignant.
It comes at times where you didn't expect them. Tim's going out of town. Okay, whatever that means for me. But there is a time for opportunity, and so you gotta go and you gotta take it. You gotta go out there and you gotta take it. You can't be hesitant. You gotta go out there and take it. So the opportunity was great, and if it comes up again, I'll be ready to take it. I'll take it once again. Yeah.
How do you think the show went?
Good. Yeah, I think it went real well. I mean, there was the first one we had was on the heels of Jordan Hicks throwing the ball about 10 feet over Paul Goldschmidt's head.
Yeah, that brought back memories of my high school baseball career.
In Miami, so there was plenty to talk about then. And then we had a Monday show. Monday shows are always full of topics.
Because you have a little Piddles weekend wrap-up like we have today.
Yeah, and that was right before the All-Star break, so it was a good time to talk about the trade deadline, stuff like that. So I thought the shows went really well. I love doing it with those guys. I think those guys are really, really talented, more talented than I, so it's easy to lean on them.
Do you really feel that, or are you just saying that because you know that'll get you some likes?
In terms of like St. Louis sports talk?
Because honestly, I don't think anybody's more talented than me.
Right, of course. Well, I didn't include you in that. I was talking about the producer side of it. In terms of St. Louis sports talk, yes, they are much more talented than I.
Really?
Yeah. And
is that because you thought WPG stood for wins per game?
Well, I certainly didn't think it stood for Winnipeg, so egg on my face on that one. So yeah, I think that's a prime example. But, I'm not necessarily that's not my bailiwick.
You want to play well with Pelicans fans and Jazz fans and Trailblazers fans.
Yeah. Boy, talk about three of the hottest teams in pro sports right there. You talk about bastions of sports. Right. You talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, Utah Jazz, and Portland Trailblazers. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I go for.
All right. You are welcome to text in 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line is how you can get involved. And now you can watch us on YouTube. How wonderful is that? And is the chat open?
Not on like this right here, but I can get it open.
I can't imagine the fun and games in the 101 ESPN chat.
I assume they're just super...
I would gather some of the TMA listeners are going to go in there and interact with some of the regulars if I had to guess.
I'm actually...
Because I've seen this for a couple of decades, and I know how it plays out.
Yeah,
and it'll be wonderful, actually.
I'm looking forward to, in the break, taking a look at the old YouTube chat.
Taking a gander. Are we giving away tickets today? I think we are.
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
101 ESPN has your chance to score a pair of tickets to see Foreigner with special guest Loverboy this weekend. This Wednesday night, I apologize, at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Tickets for the historic farewell tour are on sale now, or you can text into 314-399-09646, Ryder. Ryder is spending a lot of time in the United Kingdom and typing in lots of numbers.
Country codes and such.
Country codes. 314-399-9646 to win free tickets to Foreigner. Get all the ticket details at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 ESPN app. So, Jackson, how are we going to decide who gets the tickets to see Foreigner and Loverboy?
Text of the day.
Nice.
Send in a text that either sparks a good conversation or just honestly rips us. And
Are there going to be any of those?
There's usually some. So we always pick a winner. So some wins every time. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be some good stuff.
We got a million texts.
Yeah, the audience is chomping at the bit.
Let's see what we got. It's great to have you back, Tim. The translucent one was lost without you. That's from the 8:30 Recreator. Didn't you basically have all the time off too?
Yeah. Like Thursday through Friday last week, I didn't, or Tuesday through Friday, I had nothing to do with anything on 101 ESPN. So I guess I was lost in that sense.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
Well, perhaps that's going to get you a ticket to a Foreigner and Loverboy. All right, see what we got going on here. We got the Little Piddles weekend wrap-up, and we're giving away tickets to Foreigner and to Loverboy. That is all coming up on the program. The first balloon party with me back anyway since June 30th. I went on vacation, did TMA from vacation from my backyard.
Yeah.
How did that work for you as producer of TMA?
Oh,
was it fine?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the technology is super easy.
Yeah, the technology is
super easy.
Yeah,
it couldn't be easier. And then you just hop in, talk it over. It's fun.
Yeah. So back and looking forward to talking it over here on 101 ESPN with the fine listeners and now viewers at the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, where my baby blues are on full display. And they match with this blue hat. What's more blue, my hat or my eyes?
Your hat, but I would say that you are lit really well. It's like great top lighting.
That's actually in my contract that I have special lighting, like Sybil Shepherd on Moonlighting with the filter.
Right. I before the show, I stand on top of the console here and switch out the bulbs.
And I stand on top of phone books during the show.
Right. Well, your contraction, it's in your contract.
It's part of the deal. All right, we will have the Little Piddles weekend wrap-up, rip our asses in the text line and the YouTube chat. Have fun with it. 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line, YouTube, 101 ESPN YouTube. And the Little Piddles weekend wrap-up is next here on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. Balloon Party driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN. Timothy Michael McKernan, Action Jackson with you here on 101 ESPN. We're on the app. We're on YouTube. I am now sitting. I got a booster seat. I wanted to try the phone books and see how that looked on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Felt like it looked good because you talked about the lighting.
Yeah.
The Sybil Shepherd filter. But now I'm sitting in a chair, and it's elevated. Mm-hmm. That if Randy Carricker were to sit on the same chair, his head would go through the ceiling.
Right.
But for me, it allows me to be visible.
I think people really appreciate the transparency because some of these Hollywood tricks aren't told.
Tom Cruise,
Al Pacino,
Gary Coleman.
Yeah, Al Pacino would wear high heels in Godfather, so they didn't look so small.
I didn't know that.
James Caan. Yeah, well, in the book, Michael Corleone's tall. Tall, blonde.
And Santino was well hung, correct?
Yes, and that is kind of
wow, you jumped all over that.
Well, I've read the book several times, and that's a big part of the book. Yeah. Yeah.
You read that. You go back and read that description of Sonny's manhood.
Well, I think it helps understand to the audience why he was so headstrong and so.
Really, that's a stereotype that I don't appreciate because that makes it sound like I'm headstrong.
Right, but I think he was a little bit more emotional and confident with his emotions.
He was a bad Don.
Bad Don. Strong guy.
Text in your Mount Rushmore of worst Dons. 314-399-9646. You could win tickets to see Loverboy and Foreigner this Wednesday night at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Jackson brought up something, and then we'll get to the weekend wrap-up. This will bond us all.
Yeah.
Even those of you who loathe us with intense hatred.
Oh, yeah. It's coming through fast and furious today.
I mean, I'm telling you, the Thunder last night.
Unbelievable.
I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. And I mean, I'm popping so many damn pills, sleeping. It's tough to wake me up, but holy crap.
Yeah. It was so startling. Like, I thought someone was breaking into my home.
Was somebody breaking in?
No. That was just Mother Nature, baby. And it was like, it shook my windows. It was the loudest crack of thunder I've ever heard in my life. It woke me right up. And I'm a deep sleeper.
It was going on, I guess, about 1:30 till 3-ish?
It probably was about 2 o'clock when it woke me up.
I'm sure some people live stream and watch on YouTube, especially a lot of ladies now that I'm on YouTube. But if you're not in the St. Louis area, we got it bad, Jack. We got it bad. And I mean real bad, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the weekend, I mean, it was so hot on Friday. I played golf on Friday, and I ran out of gas.
Were you at St. Louis again?
Ambrier. And I ran out of gas.
The St. Louis Country Club of Waterloo.
Yeah, it actually is.
I would agree.
14 holes in, I ran out of gas. I just didn't.
You shut it down?
No, I kept playing.
What a dandy.
No, I kept playing, but I just didn't have it. I lost it.
Sounds like we're making excuses out here.
I mean, I shot 83, so I'm not going to be upset, but
it's pretty good.
39 on the front, so that means.
What's that index at right now? People want to know what your index is. I know.
I think
texting when you with Jackson's index.
With that 83, it drops me to an 8.8, which means come and get a piece of me.
I was about to say it's feeding season.
Come get a piece of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at this Jackson out on the 101 airways, just bragging about his handicap. All right, it's time for the Little Piddles weekend wrap up. First one since June.
Yeah, seriously. First one of July. All right. We're looking towards the trade deadline that approaches in about 2 weeks. We see a few guys that make for obvious choices to be dealt. With the contract status and their performance so far, especially recently, Flaherty and Montgomery are two starters who would make sense to be traded. Bats like Edman and possibly O'Neill also look like they could be on the move. In your mind, who are some less than obvious guys who we could see dealt before or at the deadline? Do you think that there's a chance they offload Contreras and eat the bulk of that contract? Maybe Paul DeJong, even Paul Goldschmidt.
All right, I was going to say Contreras, but you heard me bring that up on TMA, so I'm wondering if you really think that, or since I brought that up on TMA last week, that you knew that was my shocker value play. Again, not because I think it's likely. I want to emphasize this, but if you wanted a sneaker play where the Cardinals would overpay to get him off the books for the next few years, that would be my sneaker play.
Right. So that was kind of half and half. I know you had that opinion last week.
Have you read it anywhere?
I have not read it. Okay. I haven't read it like someone saying like possibly Contreras on the move, but I do think that if you look at it, it could make some sense if you're trading away Contreras eating a bulk of the contract. So, like, the biggest part of the reason a team wouldn't want Contreras is because of his contract. If the Cardinals were to eat that, I mean, he's got like the 7th best batting average for catchers in baseball right now, with some other good sabermetric stats going for him. So there is a possibility he would have value, especially if the Cardinals would eat part of that contract. Then you can move Herrera possibly into that everyday catching role.
One of my favorite trades the Cardinals have made within the last decade, and it's not like there are a lot to choose from outside of the two super obvious ones, was trading away Alan Craig and Joe Kelly. And Kelly wound up being the most valuable piece in the deal.
For sure.
And John Lackey came to St. Louis. But I loved that move because they were offloading a declining asset that they were tied to for a long period of time. And there is such value in any business in doing that if you can. There's a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode called Foisting.
Yes.
One of your favorites.
Absolutely.
And it would be wonderful to foist Wilson Contreras upon another organization. Now, the other organizations would know why the Cardinals are doing it, so they wouldn't be blind to it. But I would love that. And I bet the Cardinals would love that. I doubt the Cardinals will be commenting on it. All the Cardinals do with him is just remove him from the position 5 weeks into his 4-year contract. So that would be my sneaker play that I would love. It would accomplish so much for the organization if they were able to do that. Do I think it's likely? Have I read it anywhere? No. But because of the Alan Craig thing, it is something that I wonder if they are looking at doing. And also because Herrera's come up and done what he's done.
Yep.
Which then takes me back to October of 2022. And I was thinking to myself, and I think I said it on TMA and on Balloon Party. I know I was thinking it. I'm virtual. I didn't understand why catcher was identified as this must replace Hall of Fame guy immediately, top priority the offseason. It just struck me as an odd thing to have. And then you didn't get Sean Murphy, and you made a panic move and overpaid for Wilson Contreras.
Yep.
You compounded the issue. So I would love that move. I would love that move just to get that off the books. But, Herrera didn't just pop up here. He's been a part of the organization when Contreras was signed. As far as other players possibly going, I listened to the Matt Holliday interview when he was on the Fast Lane last week.
Gotcha.
And he talked about the Goldschmidt situation. And he said that's a really interesting one. Because, Holliday said, I don't know how long he plans on playing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's comfortable in St. Louis and wouldn't want to take his kids out of school because these are the things you have to think through.
Right.
And if he's going, I might only have another couple of years to win a World Series and be a starter, which is weird to think considering, 10 months ago he won the MVP. But with that all said, he would have to agree to it. So it's a different set of circumstances if the Cardinals would even consider doing it. I'm not sure they would. I almost always advocate if you do not think you have a chance, move as much as you can. Right. I love that. To me, the fact that the Angels are even having the debate, or at least publicly, media is having the debate about Shohei Ohtani, blows my mind. It is so obvious you trade him.
Right.
It's not even a sweat.
Right. Of course.
If they were healthy and they had, some pitching besides Ohtani, perhaps you have a conversation. But they're 2 games under 500, and Mike Trout's hurt.
Yeah, that's the key.
And it strikes me as so obvious that you move him. Right. And then you tell the fan base, we're going to move him, and we're going to get some prospects, and then we're going to do everything we can to bring him back.
Yeah, right. That's fair.
But we got to improve the organization. The Cardinals have not been in this spot under Bill DeWitt's ownership, and so how they play this over the next couple of weeks, for me, as somebody who has been working in the market for as long as I have, is one of the more fascinating stories because it is a defining moment for the organization. Yep. So from my standpoint, minus Walker, minus Wynn, and I suppose you could name maybe a couple of others. I'd be surprised if they traded Arenado, by the way, just because he's under contract.
I would agree there.
Unless he was like, I don't know what you guys told me this past offseason. I went out of here. Mm-hmm. Everybody's
Yeah, everybody's up for grabs. So you'd hear all offers, that's for sure.
Yes.
You'd always hear all offers. And I think, kind of following up on the Goldschmidt thing, would you be on board if they were to move Goldschmidt? And there's a lot of ifs there because, again, the no trade clause is a big piece of that. Even if you wanted to move him, you'd have to agree to it. But possibly planning on Jordan Walker being your everyday first baseman down the road, would you be on board with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the same thing, which is, on the heels of his incredible catch Saturday. Having said that, I think that there's a clear need to get him in the lineup every day. And if you have Wilson Contreras, who has to DH a certain amount of time, and you don't want Walker in the outfield, I think the obvious move is to go to first base.
I would agree with you. I mean, I guess this was on TV. It doesn't matter where the hell I said it. People know, but they may have forgotten that Albert Pujols was a third baseman, and then he was a left fielder, and then he was a first baseman. So, and then he was a DH. So this can happen, and for a guy who is still learning the game defensively in the outfield, it can make sense. And again, saying the Cardinals should trade Paul Goldschmidt, you can say it all day long. If Goldschmidt doesn't want to go, he's not going to go. Exactly. It just depends on, as Matt Holliday said, what is he looking for? Is he looking for peace of mind? And you know what? I'm not going to waive my no trade, and I'd like to finish my career here, so let's sign a 2-year extension. You know you got me. Put that to bed, and maybe the Cardinals would be all over that. Or would he go, God, I'm going to be 36. Yeah, I'd like to win a world championship, and he could be a hell of an asset.
Oh, absolutely.
So surprisingly, is power-oriented as the position of first base has been in, God, it's got to be up there with the outfield as far as production goes. There are some teams that are in competition that could really use a first baseman. I mean, who couldn't use the defending MVP? But I'm talking about there's some teams with a hole at first base, and he would have some value beyond what the obvious is of, he's the defending MVP. Mm-hmm. So if he's up for it, I would love for them to do it. And by the way, all running parallel to this conversation is the Cardinals really should have won 5 in a row. That game on Saturday, the first game of that doubleheader, was one that they threw the ball around and they blew it. Now, the problem is that the Brewers have gotten hot. So for those of you who are monitoring this thing, as if there is a chance, like me, because I'm financially invested in it, when the Reds falter, the Brewers pick it up. And in this case, the Brewers are beating the Reds, and the Brewers now have their starting pitching activated, and it is on a heater. So if the Cardinals are operating under the premise that it's not going to happen, you're 11.5 back of the wild card, you're 11.5 back of the National League Central. From my standpoint, damn near everybody is available. The issue, the overarching issue, is the same people who put you in this position from a management standpoint are the people you're now entrusting to rebuild it. And that's the core issue. Jackson, do you have another question for me? You know what you do? I know you do, but we should break. Look at that.
I like that plan. Look at this. Comes back from vacation and is ready to manage clock.
No, it's exciting. As a face guy, and that's what I'm known as a face guy, being on YouTube, I think, allows me to really shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond.
Tim the face guy.
Tim the face guy.
I really like that.
You like that?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, so we'll take a commercial break. We will come back with more of the Little Piddles weekend wrap-up. And don't forget, Jackson's Lover Boy and Foreigner tickets will be given away to the text of the day at 314-399-9646. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mung & S. St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals won yesterday, final score of 8-4 over the Washington Nationals. They will take on the Miami Marlins tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Miles Michaelis on the bump. And last night, NBA Summer League consolation game. The LA Lakers defeat the LA Clippers 104-103. Missouri Tiger Demoy Hodge with 23 points on 7 3-pointers. That was another Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. This is Balloon Party driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Timothy Michael McKernan, Action Jackson with you here on the program. Jackson, did I get an NBA Summer League update there? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, a little consolation talk. Kobe Brown versus Demoy Hodge last night.
Fun to see two Missouri players competing.
Absolutely. On Friday, Kobe Brown had 35 points on 7 3-pointers.
Clip show.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I was watching. Can't lie to you.
So you labored through your 18 holes at Annenbriar like a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went home and you watched NBA Summer League action on a Friday night as a 25-year-old single man.
Yeah, so I watched, because that game was going on while I was playing, so I watched the highlights of that game, and then Demoy Hodge played later that evening, and I watched that.
Oh, doubleheader, twin bill. Let's play two. Ernie Banks. Fun.
Yeah, it was great. And Sora Thompson, the Pistons. It was great. It was great action.
What a Friday night.
I had a great time.
More of the Little Pills weekend wrap up here. It's time for question 2.
Question number 2, Tim, is as follows. In terms of team performance, is there anything that the Cardinals as a team could do over the next 13 days or so that would change the mindset of the front office in terms of deadline strategy? Basically, if the Cards go on a little mini run on the heels of the National Series win, do you think the deadline strategy would reflect that?
Watch this. Come here. Come here.
Got it.
Win. What is that from?
I don't know. I really would like to just fire a guess, but I do not
Go ahead,
know.
fireball at the pot. You have nothing to lose.
Usually these are like 70s sitcoms, so it's like All in the Family.
How old do you think I am?
I don't know. You always make these references like about like Ma'am or whoever.
Ma'am, it's our second Emmanuel Lewis reference in the show.
I don't know any of these things.
That was from Rocky 2. That was the
Okay.
delightful Talia Shire talking to Sylvester Stallone.
Which is full circle because she's, of course, brothers with Francis Ford Coppola.
And you can't get over how well hung Santino Corleone was in the book.
I think it led to his demise at the toll booth.
I think you're attacking people who are well hung, and I'm not going to stand for it.
Oh, nice.
Win. The answer is win. Just like what Talia Shire said in Rocky 2. So if they can go on a heater, which the thing is, they could.
Right. I mean,
They really could.
Absolutely.
I just don't know what the hell they would do. As a guy who has financial investment, I would love to see it.
Right.
It probably isn't good for the organization.
That's what I'm saying.
As weird as it sounds.
Like with hamstring.
Kind of like when Kevin Demoff was speaking to people in Los Angeles. Fortunately or unfortunately, we went on a winning streak. What the hell?
Super endearing.
Oh, my God. But yeah, big picture, I'm not sure it would be in the best interest. I think all of their quotes really do sound like they've turned the page on 2023.
Was they like last week for sure?
So I would say win, but I think that the other thing with Flaherty, I mean, it's 3 straight really good starts. It wouldn't surprise me if he has made his last start as a Cardinal.
Wow. There's the headline right there.
I don't think that's a headline. I think it's just math. And by that, I mean, his trade value is so good. Let's not have a guy with a shoulder issue or have a bad start. I mean, look what happened with Candelario this weekend with the Nationals. There's a guy who's a lock to be traded, who's been on a heater over the last few weeks, and the Nationals are where they are. And then he gets hurt in pregame on Friday night in St. Louis before the game was suspended. And they put him back in the lineup yesterday, still has a thumb issue. And now the Nationals are going, oh, my God, are we not going to get anything for this guy? You know, I mean, that's the thing. So I wonder about that with a guy that you know you're most likely not re-signing anyway. He's got 3 straight really good starts. Let's move on and let's see what we can get now. Making a deal on July 17th, 18th, or 19th is not unheard of.
Sure.
So I don't even think you're going to get the full 2 weeks before the deals start happening. That's what I'm saying.
I do agree with that. I think it would also, back to my original question, it would be interesting, over the next 4 or 5 games before Flaherty's next start, if they win 4 in a row.
Telling you.
And then it's well, do we start Flaherty because we're kind of on a little run here? That would be 9 out of 10. And do we start Flaherty and keep the momentum going, or do we shut him down so we can maintain the value?
Plus 2,500 to win the Central now if you want to throw something on that.
Boy, that's juicy, but let's we got to look in the realm of realistic, and I don't know if that is realistic. But again, I think winning right now, and it seems like such a Cardinals thing where they right before it's okay, they're definitively going to be sellers, and then right before some crazy happens where they go on a run, or the 17-game win streak after trading for John Lester and Jay Happ, it's almost the front office gets vindicated for moves that, in all honesty, when looking at it through the process, is not great.
Couldn't agree with you more. The results-oriented analysis of the Lane Thomas-John Lester trade. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at what he did. Yeah, but what were you doing?
Right. I don't have a young outfielder.
And by the way, Lane Thomas could have wound up being Ty Wigginton for all I care. It doesn't matter. What in the world was that about?
Right.
I know I said that. I was watching MLB Network that day, and they're kind of wow, this deal just in from the Cardinals. Lane Thomas for John Lester. What are they doing in St. Louis?
Yes.
And then they went on a thing about how the Cardinals have a tough time with the trade deadline.
Absolutely.
So here we go. Here comes the trade deadline, except this time they, at the moment anyway, have a very clear role as seller. That year, it was probably seller, but they traded a young outfielder who now has turned out to be super productive for John Lester, who at the time would have rather been in a tree stand.
Absolutely.
All right, what else do we have here on this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up? The first one ever to air on YouTube. Unbelievable what's going on.
It's really cool. Shifting gears, something that I've wanted to ask you now. We haven't been on the air together for a little bit on 101 ESPN, so something I've wanted to ask you. Since we have been gone, both ESPN and the New York Times have made massive sports cutbacks and layoffs, with the latter getting rid of their entire sports department. Firstly, what is your knee-jerk reaction to the shift in the sports market? Secondly, where do you think a lot of these sports personalities will go? Do you think people will start doing their own thing as opposed to being attached to a big-name media platform?
Oh, and now you hit me with the topic that's going to get me going. That's what you did.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
That's why this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up is so powerful. It has to be
Red hot.
fun for people to watch it actually happen on YouTube.
I think they're not appreciating it in the moment, and they're going to look back and say that was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. On the New York Times sports section getting shut down, my initial thought process of why I would have just imagined. So the background on that is New York Times bought The Athletic.
Right, a year ago or so.
For $550 million. Mm-hmm. They have since laid people off from The Athletic. The Athletic has not turned a profit, and the New York Times sports department, what I thought what they would do is just take those sports writers and then roll them over into The Athletic. Mm-hmm. But my understanding, I was actually listening to the John Alrand and Andrew Marchand sports media podcast on my way to the station today, and there are union rules why they can't do that. So you have some really talented sports reporters who will now be covering school board meetings in New York City.
Right.
So that sucks. But as somebody who works in this business and has operated businesses in this business, that's the nature of the beast at the moment. And things change. And you know what I say? Watch this. Learn from me. Adapt or die.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. To cite Talia Shire, Emmanuel Lewis, and knowledge like that in one show, and we're only 43 minutes in, it shows I'm firing all cylinders. And that vacation where I worked the whole time shows that I really got some R&R.
Yeah, you came back real rested.
Yeah. So that's the nature of the beast, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you work in sports media, you will be whacked. It's just the way that it is.
Right.
So I feel, from a human standpoint, feel badly. Mm-hmm. From a business standpoint, the tea leaves have been out there to be read for more than a quarter of a century.
Sure.
So, other sports media people can piss and moan about it, but that's the deal. Either deliver for your company's bottom line and be irreplaceable, or prepare to be replaced. It's your choice, Jackson. Adapt or die. Emmanuel Lewis, Talia Shire. Both said it.
Incredible.
Michael Scott.
This is exactly what I wanted, this little Piddles weekend wrap-up, and I got exactly what I wanted.
No, I'm excited to deliver for you, especially on YouTube. Was there another question in there? Oh, where are these sports media personalities going to go?
Where's there, especially with like some of the ESPN people who have, some recognition, name recognition.
But do they generate revenue and mobilize an audience? And
that I don't know.
That's the thing. And that's why it's like, well, I'm mad at Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. Well, guess what? They make the company money.
Right.
So sorry that they do their job.
Right.
F off.
Right.
That's what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So you can be mad they make a bunch of money, but they make their company money because they make their advertisers money. And that's the game. You can be mad at it all you want. I suggest taking a business course. But that's the deal. You can be recognizable, but if you don't deliver an ROI, you're irrelevant.
Sure.
So you get replaced. You get whacked. That's the game.
I think a good amount of, not a good amount, but some will end up at places like Barstool. I think Barstool will probably put their hand in a couple, because maybe these people
Who do you think goes to Barstool?
That it's all about chemistry meshing. Like if there's a good chemistry out there for someone to join like a baseball podcast with them, I could see something like that happening.
But like who?
I wish I should have come up with some examples beforehand. That's on me. But like FanDuel TV, stuff like that, like smaller organizations that aren't ESPN or FS1 could still get a lot of value out of these people. And listen, I don't know the bottom lines of all these companies, and I don't know how much revenue these people generate, but there's plenty of people who are very talented, and just based on talent, I would think that some would end up there. And I think good portion.
But talent is subjective. Dollars are objective.
No doubt.
That's the thing about this. And I assure you, if the, let's say, $1 million they spend on X, Y, or Z ESPN personality led to ESPN making $1.5 million, X, Y, or Z personality isn't one of the layoffs.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's really simple math. Mm-hmm. But because some people like some personalities, they get mad when they get let go, and when some people don't like personalities, they celebrate via schadenfreude that they did.
Right.
But the reality is, if they bring in money, they have a place.
Yeah.
And it's just like any other business. It's just that unlike baseball or hockey, you can't look up the statistics and see what the dollars are. Just like you said, I don't know what kind of revenue people bring in. Idea. But the ones who are getting paid big-time dollars have dollars attached to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making that money. They're not running 501c3s in Bristol.
No, they're not. And I guess we will see who makes money and who doesn't, because I would assume that the vast majority of people who are let go either by New York Times or ESPN will do their own thing, whether it be a podcast or a blog of some sort. And if they see success in that and maybe get acquired by a different company, then we know they make money. And if not,
then
but then
they're going to have to then now sell their own stuff.
Right.
And that's a skill that isn't just sitting there for everybody to have.
No doubt. Yeah. I think it's very interesting, and it's a shift in the sports market of what people necessarily want. Like, I think people want more stuff like Pat McAfee driven kind of, I always call them like hangout shows, where it's more like you're hanging out with sports personalities.
Certainly there's a large audience for that, and oftentimes it's younger, which is great if you're looking for that demographic, and that's certainly, what TMA is, and that's what we've done now for a couple of decades. But I also think, even if it's not something I personally am into, I would love, a more, like I always cite Real Sports on HBO as one of my favorite shows. Mm-hmm. It's not a hangout show. It's a sports journalism, but it costs a hell of a lot of money to produce those. It's a lot easier to go, okay, here's 2 microphones, here's some YouTube cameras, give takes,
Right.
And that's why those things exist. It's just ESPN found that with the Disney situation that they needed to cut. And, the thing is, they laid off 200 people couple years ago maybe, but they were behind the scenes people.
Right.
So it wasn't that big of a deal publicly, even though more people were impacted and more people who didn't have a lot of money, like many of these people do. But because there were big names let go this time, now it's getting more attention. I would say the thing that happened a couple of years ago was more unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that's
what I'm talking about? Somebody who doesn't have a few million sitting
and I remember that happening. Portfolio. And it was like, when you look, if I were to measure the news coverage on one for the other, much more so on the on-air talent thing, and, especially with the McAfee thing, who moves the needle, you bring that element into the ESPN on-air layoffs, it makes for a much more titillating news story as opposed to behind-the-scenes people, almost all of which people don't know.
Now Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith have to issue apologies for the fact that they do their jobs.
Right, and weren't fired. Like it's like they had a choice in the matter.
Right. I mean, it's math, man. It's real simple.
Yep.
Do you make the cut? If the company spends $1 million on you and you bring in $1.5 million for the company, the $1 million they spend on you is better than the $100,000 they spend on somebody who's bringing in 30.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I can try to make it as simple as possible. So you can hate on the guy making a bunch of money, but the guy delivers ROI. So piss off. What else do you have? I'm getting angry. I want to fight somebody right now. Who
I
do you
think
want
what
to
we
fight?
have is a break.
Nice. I like that. It's a 10:50. My time management hasn't been bad.
No.
I'm pretty excited. You know what I am? Excited about myself.
Right, which is a new thing.
We'll take a break. Jackson's going to give away Loverboy and Foreigner tickets coming up in the next segment. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota is the presenting sponsor of Balloon Party here on 101 ESPN. And it's also the place where I go to get my family's cars and to get cars repaired. Even if you didn't get your car from Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota, get your car serviced at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. You will experience world-class service and first-class people. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota online at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. Plus, you can text or call 314-252-0029, and you can speak directly with the people in charge at Munganess. Can't recommend them enough. Think the world of Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, Peter Munganess, that service department, everybody at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. And once you experience, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if you're going to want to go anywhere else. It's Munganess, stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. Welcome back. Final segment of Balloon Party, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota for Monday, July 17th, 2023. And before we go any further, Jackson, you want to give away our Loverboy and Foreigner tickets this Wednesday night at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, courtesy of 101 ESPN. It's the text of the day. What have you selected?
I selected this text here from the 636. Jackson's humble brag / complaint about shooting an 83, saying he didn't have it for the last 5 holes, is sickening, and Tim should punish him with a wet noodle. Again, 636, and that won you some tickets, because you know what? Sometimes you have to look in the mirror, and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't like what I saw.
Do you acknowledge that was a humble brag, and how you labored through the final 4 holes at Handbrier?
Right, and
I mean, it's not like I go, oh, how'd you play at Handbrier? You know, tell me in detail. It was seemingly brought up apropos of nothing.
Right, and that's the thing about being apropos of nothing, is it comes up apropos of nothing. And maybe I tried to wedge that in subconsciously. You know,
right?
Well,
all you did was advertise to me that we need to go out and play golf, and I need to get some cash.
Yeah, boy, I am live, because I'm telling you, the ball striking hasn't improved.
What happened? Were you just rolling the rock, Jack?
I'm going to say this, and this is going to come off as a humble brag.
Humble brag. Text in.
It's kind of like when I talk movies. Like, I just understand I'm going to sound pretentious, so I just don't care. And right now, me and my 56-degree wedge are in a holy matrimony unlike anything I've ever seen in my life.
Clip that off. When they ask, what goes on Balloon Party, we'll play that clip.
Because me and this 56-degree wedge are getting along just quite swimmingly. I can't miss with it. You get me inside 70 yards, I'm going to put it tight.
Wow. It's Proc City around here,
It is, and I usually play courses. I mean, most public courses around town aren't super long, and again, this is just so
and now all of a sudden the private courses only fit my game because of my distance. What an unbelievable moment in Horton Watkins condescension. I got to get out of here. And it's terrible because I look so good right now in this special lighting.
You do, yeah. I know. We're going to have to change the bulbs out once PK and Ferrari get in there. But I said most courses, for the most part, aren't like crazy long, so there will be some short par 4s where I can get it to about 65 yards.
Wow, the bomber has arrived. Look at Dustin Johnson over here,
And
Peter.
if I have, but that's the problem, is like when I play a longer course where I have like 6 iron into most holes, I'm going to shoot in the mid 80s. Mid to high 80s, because I have real trouble with the long irons.
Jackson, how's that 7 iron still going 130?
It's not 130, but there was a moment where like 155, I was really having to muscle it.
Timmer Jackson, what do you think of Steph Curry and the hole-in-ones, and also the run-up to the pin? That's from FedEx Brian. We got a name saved here.
Nice. It was awesome.
I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the celebration.
He's awesome.
I saw Gronkowski tweeted out, do you think he could play pro? And I bet Steph Curry would be the first one to say, absolutely not.
No, he's scratch, but there's a big difference between being scratch and being pro.
In another world.
Right. Like, there's a difference between being your rec league MVP and being Steph Curry. So
right.
There's like, and it's awesome to see. I mean, that's not an easy course, Edgewood and Tahoe, but it's still miles away. And plus, he has a little career being the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. So I think that's more lucrative for him.
I had Mark Mulder on one time on my podcast, and because he plays, and he's a great player.
Yeah.
I think he's won that event.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And he loves playing. And I go, you ever think about it? He goes, man, people have no idea how good those guys are, because he plays with Pat Perez and Ches Reavie, who are pros, but not like...
Not household names. Yeah.
Rahm, And he goes, Pat will be out there barefoot drinking, and he'll shoot a 65, and I'll be like grinding and playing the greatest round of my life, and I'll still be 4 strokes behind him. He goes, you just have no idea. They have 12 shots for every shot, and you just can't compete with them. It's a different world. So I would imagine Steph Curry, who knows the game, knows he would have no chance to compete. He's a scratch golfer. Great.
Yeah.
These guys are like +8s.
Right.
All right, BK and Ferrari are coming up next. We'll update you on how Jackson plays today. Tomorrow.
I ain't playing today.
Oh, wow.
No, I ain't playing today.
Because you've played 6 days in a row. Log cabin.
Right, yeah. So many rounds of the log.
Time for us to shut it down. For Action Jackson, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.